Hello everybody and welcome to the writing classroom. I'm so glad you're here and you've shown up, and we're basing this unit on The Lost Thing, an Oscar-winning short animation. And while you're here, we're not thinking about enormous chunks of writing. We're about the small stuff, the step by step. We're going to really zoom into it, and I'm going to be your writing teacher, and together we learn from each other and we get better. I'm so proud of your work already, and the description already, the contrast we've created is a great scene setting start. So welcome here. We're going to be remarkable writers. We're a big collaboration joining up across the whole world, and my name is Mrs. C. If you want to get hold of me, you want me to see your work, you know the hashtag is English with Mrs. C, and then I can see it and you become part of the bigger sharing process. Okay, we've got our own jingle, and that jingle is really important because if you're here for the first time, there are things that we do that are quite lickety-split. But when it comes to the writing, we focus on a sentence carefully. So what is our jingle? It sets the speed, it sets the tone. We've got fire coming off our pen. It's pens up. Think at pace. Jot quick, writing's ace. So first things first, who has made it to the Lost Thing celebration board? Well, I am popping off the party poppers. There is confetti. There's a Claxton. I'm that excited. This has come in from St. Stephen's Junior School on Twitter, and this is somebody in year 3, and it's summary. And I just want to say, wowzers, this was such an engaging read. One summary, hot evening many years ago, what seemed very normal suddenly turned into a very, very bizarre. Let me do your work justice. Summary. The beach was a long arc of chick yellow sand surrounded by a wall. Look at the use of the trumpeting colon there. Dull, sober, sky high, a mysterious, very odd and bizarre thing indeed. Oh, so impressive. I'm really impressed with that. Thank you, Samir. Really brilliant. Okay, so who made it to the super sentence stacking wall? Well, we've got Billy, who's 7 from Docking Primary. The scene setting of many moons ago. Great writing there, Billy, beautifully poetic. And Joseph, from sent in by Jess Denton. Thank you, Jess. You've been there since the beginning. Oh my, the teacher squad working their socks off. Look at the contrast created here. The beach was a long arc of golden honey sand and surrounded by a towering, dull, rusty wall. Look at that, the beautiful arc of sand, and then the echo and the hint that the world of work is greyer, darker, more harrowing. And then Milo, sent in by Mum. Thank you, Mum. Annabelle Rogers. Look at this, popping off with the vocabulary. This is perfect. The outlandish alien octopus thing. You're in year 4. There's some cracking stuff happening already. I have been zinging all night with excitement, and I can't wait till we get right in today. So you've got 30 seconds on your clock. It's not long to get your piece of paper ready. You fold it in half. You create 2 lines here, so you have 3 learning chunks. Cut that in half, and remember, when it's writing, I want you to do a continuous piece of writing. We're writing a paragraph, a nice short paragraph every day. 30 seconds on the clock. well done, writers. It's important to get ready for writing, that we've got the right amount of space and the right amount of space and energy in our minds. I'm going to really target your thinking so that our writing is really purposeful. Okay, so what are our steps to success today? First things first, we are going to zoom into the sense of sight, and we're going to particularly notice all the sort of technical ways we can describe the thing that is extremely lost. We're going to be using emotive language, and I'm going to tell you what portmanteau words are, and we're going to be really inventive. And then finally, we're going to insert some action using actually a poetic device that comes from Kenning's poetry. And if you're thinking, portmanteau, Kenning's, don't worry, I'm here to help you, and together we'll get better. Right then, so we are writing a first-person narrative. That means our story is dominated by pronouns I. You are the bottle collector. You are the boy on the beach, and you are the discoverer of the lost thing. There are other pronouns you'll use like me and my. It's really important we keep a community of consistency so I can stack them on the super sentence stacking system. Right then, so we're going to take soon a short little glimpse into the film that represents plot point 2. And so, what happens as the day ends on the beach? Sean realises that nobody is coming to collect the lost thing, and he doesn't seem to belong to anybody. So what does Sean do? Well, Sean walks to Pete's place. Pete is his friend, and Pete is very clever and knows what to do in situations. Pete is very opinionated. Let's take a quick look now at what happens at Pete's place.
I took the lost thing over to Pete's place. Pete has an opinion on just about everything. Cool, he said. Pete didn't know what the thing was exactly, but he said what he always does, that all physical manifestations could be identified empirically through careful observation, calibrated measurement and controlled experimentation.
Okay, everybody. Well, Pete is very clever. He's bamboozled my mind with all of that language. And you know what I think I want to do here? I want to give you a sentence. I want to put into our story what Pete has said. So let me show you that this is going to be already in your story. I've provided it for you. You don't have to write it. You can all have it. But let's take a read of it. I took the lost thing over to Pete's place. Pete has an opinion on just about everything. He believes that all physical manifestations can be identified empirically through careful observation, calibrated measurement, and controlled experimentation. Now we learn Pete likes to say this a lot, but what does it mean? Well, it means, if you look at this word here, empirically, it means that Pete believes in experiencing things, and he's giving advice to Sean, look, let's live with and experience the lost thing a little bit more, and we can observe what it does, and we can measure what it does, and we can have some experiments. He's calling the lost thing a physical manifestation. So that's quite interesting. And so together, Pete and Sean take a really good look, looking closely. This is what our writing's going to be about today. The close looking, the close labelling, the noticing. Right, so let's move to Learning Chunk 1, Word Bank 1. And the first thing we're going to focus our thinking on is words that describe the lost thing, but as they take a closer look, they sort of recognise that the fact it's lost might be making the lost thing a little bit sad. It might be making the lost thing look not quite right. Now, I want to use, rather than saying the lost thing was lost, because that's repetitive, or the lost thing was sad, I'm going to hint at it with the appearance of the lost thing. I'm going to think about its hard shell metal body. I'm going to think about its sort of tendril arms. I'm going to think about its pincers and claws. And in my mind's eye, think what words I could use to hint that something isn't quite right. What about this word? I'm going to write this word fragmented. I could say that its skin looked a bit fragmented. A little bit of the hinge on the back of a doorway looked fragmented. I could say there seemed to be this sort of splintered cut on its tendril. I want you to use your imagination. I want you to look closely in your mind at the lost thing and think about words to do with the sort of skin part of the lost thing, or the metal part of the lost thing, or the movement part. Words that have negative connotations. You've got 45 seconds. How many words can you come up with by yourselves? I've thought of another word. It's one of my favourite words, dismantled. I'm going to write that down. I tell you what I'm finding tricky at the moment, so don't be nervous if you feel tricky too. We don't really know the words to describe the body parts of the lost thing yet. I mean, we know in humans, but this is a creature we're not sure about, so it's making it a little bit tricky. However, I think if we really open our thinking, we can sort that out in a moment. So I've got fragmented, splintered, dismantled. I'm also thinking about human words like, what would we say if something wasn't quite right when you'd look at a friend? You might say that they look pale or unwell or ashen. That's given me some ideas actually. Off you go, audit and adders. we need to put some effort now into gathering imaginative ways to describe the lost thing. It's part machine, part industrial boiler, part living creature, part crab, part octopus. Thank you for that lovely word earlier on our sentence stack, outlandish. What a great word. I'm learning from you. We need some technical words. And I think I've got something to help you. I want to show you my technical board. I'm going to put it on the screen now. And I want you to take a close look at it. As you look at these technical words, they're taken actually from a car part manual. There are lots of words here. Let me show you the sort of thing I mean. Crankshaft. I'm not even sure what that is, but it's really interesting because it can give me an imaginative way to describe different bits of the lost thing. I could say the dual circuit brake system. What about this word? The gudgeon pin. Great. I'm going to leave the technical part word bank up. I want you to choose your favourites. I want you to say them out loud. And when you've chosen some of your favourites in this 45 seconds, write them in word bank too. Oh, some of those are great to read. I'm now going to write some and audit and add them. Some of them as well, I'm using my own imagination. Some I'm familiar with, like engine and brake pad. And they can all help me, actually. Have a last look at the technical part list, because now I'm moving over to Word Bank 2. Right. I want to now create this moment for this plot point that both Pete and Sean, and remember we are Sean in this story, you must never use the name Sean, we're writing a first person narrative. But as they look closely, they're able to notice that, well, he's sad, he's lost, something's not quite right. And we're going to tie together negative adjectives with the technical language. This is the sort of thing I mean. I'm going to drop in now so I keep the consistency and the good level of control as a writer. I'm going to drop in the I pronoun. I was becoming worried. That's nice, isn't it? Because it shows that you are a kind-hearted carer for the lost thing. I was becoming worried. I want to really turn that up. I'm going to, I think, drop in an adverb here. I was becoming extremely worried, desperately worried, increasingly worried. Increasingly is good. As every moment goes by, maybe the lost thing looks a little bit more dishevelled, greyer. I was becoming increasingly worried, and then this is what I want you to do as a writer. I want you to choose 3 technical parts and join them up with 3 negative bits of language and combine them. This is my idea. I was becoming increasingly worried about the things. We're going to call the thing the thing. The things belonging to the thing, these parts. What about this word, fascia? It's almost like it's covering. About the things, dusty fascia, unhinged fascia, broken fascia. They all work. Yeah, maybe cracked is a good idea because I'm really looking closely. It's cracked fascia. I'm going to choose this word because it makes me laugh, sprocket. I'm not even sure what it is, but I could say the splintered sprocket, the rusty sprocket, the unhinged sprocket. I'm going to say dusty. Dusty sprocket. You notice I put a comma in there because I'm doing a list. And then this is the final part in the list. So I drop my and there. I like regulator. I like this idea. Oh, I didn't mean to rub that out. I like this idea that I can hint that there is part of the lost thing that controls its emotions. And then I could have something like the emotional regulator, the feeling mechanism. That's quite clever, just so it gently tells the reader that the lost thing has feelings too. And what about this? And the fragmented feeling mechanism. I'm going to read that back. I was becoming increasingly worried about the thing's cracked fascia, dusty sprocket, and fragmented feeling mechanism. Here, writers, we need the negative adjectives, we need the technical words, we need them to come together as the power of 3. Mechanism. Have I spelt that right? I'm just going to look over here. Mechanism. Yes. I tell you what, I'm looking here as a check. Good job I looked. That I've spelt right here and spelt wrong here. Well, can I just say, this is a safe place to make mistakes, and what we're learning is always reread your work. Off you go, everybody. Well done, everybody. Let's move now to Learning Chunk 2, Word Bank 1. And as we move down here, I want us to think about something that looks easy on the surface of it, because we're going to collect lots of nouns, the names of things. In fact, we're going to collect specifically 2 types of nouns, and we're going to split these up across our word banks. The first nouns we're going to collect is all the names of different creatures that live in the sea. And we're also going to collect creatures that live on the land. And then in word bank 2, we're going to collect nouns for objects in the kitchen and vehicles. Now, why are we collecting all of these nouns? Well, we're collecting them because we're going to be quite inventive. We're going to create new, weird, peculiar, odd, strange names because it's us as the central character in the story trying to make sense of who this creature is and what they're about. So we're going to borrow a wonderful idea from The Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll. Now, that is the most amazing poem that appears in Alice in Wonderland, and you can read the whole thing if you want. And it's made up of portmanteau words. And portmanteau words take the beginning of one word, so the me in miserable, and the end of another word. So this is flimsy. So the measy at the end of that, and puts it together, mimsy. Now, that is also sometimes how modern day words have been created. If you get up and you don't have breakfast, but you get hungry and you can't wait till lunch, then you put those together, you get the br in breakfast and the unch in lunch. And then it means at about 11:30, perhaps, you could have brunch. So it's really interesting how language evolves. So we're going to have a go at portmanteau words, but what's going to help us, and this is my bit of advice for you, is it's going to help us if you don't collect words with one syllable. We need them to be longer so we can break the beginning bit off and then put an end bit on from another word. So we're going to think in syllable chunks. Now, a syllable is a vowel sound. So octopus, octopus. It has 3 syllables. We break down the sound into, it's all the consonants that gather around that vowel sound. Now, let's start in word bank 1, gathering animals of the sea, animals of the land that have more than 1 syllable. So I am going to write down octopus because that's a really good idea. But I'm also thinking about parts of the lost thing that I think actually it looks a little bit like as well. I'm going to write down dolphin as well. Dolphin, that's 2 syllables. Dolphin. And there you can show that like that. Dolphin. What about this word? Alligator. I'm going to put that in the land section. Alligator. Yeah, that's definitely a lot of syllables. I'm going to count that up in a moment. I think there are 4. Let's have a look. Al, Lee, Gay, Tor. Yes, there is 4. Okay, everybody. I want multisyllabic sea creatures or animals of the land. Off you go. I've just thought of a really good long syllable name for a sea creature. Look at this. Let me change the colour so it's really clear. Barracuda. It's a good one, isn't it? I think it's got 4 syllables. Look. Barracuda. Yeah, it has. Nice and long. That could make a really funny, inventive portmanteau words. I'm going to add some more now. You might be better at this than me, actually. Let's audit and add. Oh, I knew you'd be good at that. Okay, let's move over now to word bank 2. Why are we thinking about objects in the kitchen? Why are we thinking about vehicles? Because we realise the loss thing has sort of got mechanical parts. And I do know there are lots of objects in the kitchen that could get us introducing the idea of metal, things like saucepans and cheese graters. I could just write down the word grater. But vehicles, now the problem with vehicles, there's a lot that are 1 syllable, like car, van. I've got to think bigger than that. Caravan. That's a good one. Right, I'm going to write down these for kitchen. Grater. The mixer. Vehicles. What about this idea? Aeroplane. Helicopter. Can you think of all sorts of things like bulldozers and... Oh, don't give the game away, Mrs. C. Off you go. Jotters. Oh, look at this. A grinder. That's a good thing. Sometimes they're in kitchens for people who are using real coffee beans. And then look, a tractor. I'm going to add more now. And I'll be really interested to see what you get. Off we go. Okay, Helicopter's a good one because it's 4 syllables, but these are all great because they're more than one. Look how we now build a portmanteau word. Watch me as I build it over here on the writing side. We're taking these breathing moments, and when I say breathing moments, I mean like living, breathing creatures, and then we're joining them with kind of this mechanical idea. Let me make some space here. I was hoping I had some space further down, but I don't. That's okay. Let me just erase that out so I've got some space. Right then, let's have an experiment. I could take an animal of the land. What about this one? Tarantula. Let me write it over here. So something that's living. Oh, let's look at my spelling there. Tarantula. And then I'm going to add something mechanical or sort of metal based. So I could take something from the kitchen. I could take a vehicle. I think I'm going to take a caravan. Now, it's my choice as the writer where I begin and end. I think if I take this beginning bit here, Taran, and then take a van, then I have the living, breathing bit of a spider, but the vehicle part of a caravan. Taranavan. That's good. Let me have a go with another idea. If I take, let's say, a lobster. Let me have a go at doing that. A lobster. Let me write that down. A lobster, the animal, plus, let me have a look. Mixer. That's good. Oh, but would it give it a different ending enough? I'm not sure. I'm going to reject that idea. What about the helicopter? Let me put helicopter. Helicopter. So let me take the beginning here of lobs. Lob. How much am I going to take? Probably just that bit. Lob. Ecopter. Makes a lobbycopter. That's good. I am now going to talk about 3 parts on the lost thing. I'm going to use this invented language because this feels like an outlandish creature who needs it. And this is going to be my writing. You know how previous we wrote the sentence, I was starting to feel worried. I'm going to sort of do a gentle bit of repetition here. Not just being worried, but actually feeling quite attached, emotionally affectionate and concerned. I was starting to feel attached to this, and now I'm going to drop my portmanteau word. Let me do a new one. I'm going to take the, look over here. Can you see that? I'll just show you, look. In the pele, in pelican. I've started to feel attached to this pele, and then my ending. What could I have as an ending? What about a saucepan? A pelipan. This pelipan, and then I'm going to use these ideas up here. Tyrannovan. Oh, I'm going to swap that round actually. Lobbycopter. Tyrannovan thing. Let me read that back. 3 portmanteau words, just showing how unusual it is. I was starting to feel attached to this pelipan, lobbycopter, Tyrannovan thing. This is going to be brilliant. I can't wait to see your creative portmanteau ideas. Off you go. I think you're going to be inventing portmanteau words all day today. In fact, it could be good to collect them anyway, because there could be moments when you want to deepen in your story and you can use them and interslice them in your writing. Right, so let's move now down to Learning Chunk 3, and I'm really excited about this as well because we're going to be thinking about kennings. Now, kennings are a device used a lot in poetry, but you might not know kennings actually started all the way back in history, and if you've studied the Vikings, you'll know about kennings. Did you know that the Vikings used to name their swords using this device? They used to name them the Glory Giver, the Life Taker, the Skin Slicer. It's clever, isn't it? We're going to use a kennings device because we can. We're in the world of imagination and creativity. Let me show you something that you'd be familiar with that you can use a kennings with. I also want you to notice the punctuation. A hyphen is really important in a kennings because it indicates to the reader to read it together. So let's look at this. A dog. We could call the dog a postman chaser. You see where the hyphen happens. There are many ways to do kennings, but we're going to concentrate on this ER ending. Monkey. We could call the monkey the tree swinger or the owl, the head twister, but we can be really creative. Now, we need to do some work to build our thinking up. Remember, everything that Mrs. C does in the classroom is that targeted, context, small thinking. So let's look at two things that could help us. Well, we need definitely lots of nouns and we might need adjectives. Let me show you the sort of thing I mean. First things first. This is where we're going to describe very closely the parts of the lost thing. So, let me think. Pincer. That's the sort of the big arms, the big pincery arms on the lost thing. And they're very crab-like. And as part of the pincers, he seems to have an outer shell part that I want to call his claws. His whole body seems to be like a shell. I'm going to write that down. Made of metal, maybe. I'm going to write down tendrils. You might want to call them tentacles. He also has a bell. Now, what I want you to do in this 45 seconds, Chotters, is can you think of describing words for these body parts? Adjectives. So this is where you can be creative, you can use your imagination, but for pincer, I'm going to put his grasping pincer. For claws, I'm going to put sharp. For shell, I'm going to put metal. For tendrils, I'm going to put twisting. And for bell, I'm going to put rusty. I'm going to give you 45 seconds. Can you come up with 5 adjectives to match the nouns? Off you go. I've had a few other ideas. Look at this. Instead of saying red shell because his whole body is red in colour. I was thinking of a more unusual word, scarlet shell. And for tendrils, I want to say flexible because they can move in and out very easily. Let's audit and add. How many adjectives can you come up with? Great, let's move over now to Word Bank 2. And this will help us build the part of the kennings, almost the second part that comes after the hyphen. So I want us to think about words, about how the lost thing is moving. And you might think about words to do with walking, but you might even think about other words, words to do with breathing or mumbling, and words in that synonym family. But this is the sort of thing I mean to get us going, move, how it moves. I'm going to write down, well, the lost thing doesn't walk very easily down the street, so I'm going to write waddle. He waddles down the street. He plods down the street. I also want this idea that he sort of eats things en route. I'm trying to work out, is he cleaning things up? Is he licking the pavement? Or is he kind of taking in kind of big objects as he goes? I'm going to write down sort of noises as well that sort of hint at how and what he's eating. I'm going to write down crunch. I'm going to write down slurp. I challenge you, jotters. Can you add 4 more words? Off we go. Okay, let's audit and add now. And it's great if you've got a match with my word. And it's even better if you've got words that I haven't got. Let's get going. Great. Now let's take all of these ideas and begin to now join them up using a hyphen and think about really what's going to happen next. We've been to Pete's place and together we've investigated this creature, but well, in the end, Pete doesn't know what to do, and you realise all that's left now is that you've got to take the lost thing home. So let's use the Kenning's device to add another layer of description into the story. So I'm going to start like this. There was nothing left to do. There was nothing left to do after the big long investigation. There was nothing left to do. And notice how this conjunction is really important here. But take, and then I'm going to drop in. Can you see how Mrs. C often uses the power of three because it's so story-like? To take the, and now the Kenning's device. What I'm going to do is choose a word from this side. It might be an adjective, it might be a noun. It's up to me. It could be something like this. The sharp scuttler, I put it on the end. Remember, we're going to build Kennings with the ER strategy by dropping that on the end. So we could say, for example, the metal swayer, the twisting muncher, the rusty plodder. Oh, look, the shell scuttler. You know, you can choose an adjective or a noun. Have an experiment. I need three creating. I'm going to imagine that actually one of the things that the lost thing likes to eat is sand, and he's always kind of scooping it up off the street because the beach is near the street. So I'm going to write down this, but take the, watch how I do it, sand gurgler, that sort of eating sound, comma. I'm going to have a go at another idea. I like this word down here, rusty. Don't know whether to keep the E on that or just turn it to rust. The rusty, let's try it with the E. The rusty ringer, comma, because I'm going to do another one. Take this word here, metal. I love this word, waddler, home. Okay, writers. Hit me up with your 3 Kenning device descriptions for the lost thing. This is going to be brilliant. Oh, can't wait to read those. I'm going to read my work back in a moment. Before I do that, I just want to say, if you're a parent or a teacher and you want to know what's coming next, go to janeconsidine.com, and there you can download the plan, and you'll be able to see really clearly what's coming tomorrow. Okay, so let's read that back. I know that what I did was added in another vowel here, so I'm just putting that edit in. Here we go. Let's have a read. I took the lost thing over to Pete's place. Pete has an opinion on just about everything. He believes that all physical manifestations can be identified empirically through careful observation, calibrated measurement, and controlled experimentation. I was becoming increasingly worried about the thing's cracked fascia. Have I made a mistake with that? I need to go back and reread it. I always do that. I think the S goes here. Do you know, you just have to be a brave speller. I was becoming increasingly worried about the thing's cracked fascia, dusty sprocket, and fragmented feeling mechanism. I was starting to feel attached to this pelican, lobbycopter, taravan thing. There was nothing left to do but take the sand gurgler, rusty ringer, metal waddler home. Now, everybody, remember, it's not a pelican, is it, after all? Look at that. Pelican. Because remember, I did a pelican and a saucepan. Yeah, good job I checked that. Attached to this pelican, lobbycopter, taravan thing. Okay, remember, if you want me to read your work, if you want me to see it, then send it in via Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Make sure you @Jane Considine or @Jane Considine Education. And I love it when you like the video on YouTube. You know, if you're a grown-up, you can subscribe to my channel so you'll always know when I'm in the classroom, because I'm popping in all the time. I love teaching you and I love reading your work. And when I say it could be you on my celebration wall tomorrow, it could be you.